Hi everybody, I'm Tanya, and this is Zoby. Say hello. He's such a good boy. He's a little mad at me because I just woke him up and I promised him treats. Ooh, yeah, now we're interested. If he would please look at the camera and say hi. Nope, not all he wants is treat. Sorry. Hold on a second. I'm gonna let him go back to sleep and give him a treat. But thank you for tuning back into, there you go, for tuning back into our channel. And for all of the views and the likes and the subscriptions, whatever, to the channel so far. I really appreciate all of the support as we prepare to get on the Appalachian Trail and get the RV repaired and get back out to adventuring in full-time RV life after the Appalachian Trail as well. And I will be continuing to post videos from that. I've made that promise. I will get to it. I've actually had COVID. Today's January 3rd. I was diagnosed on December 30th, and I spent New Year's quarantining. Lovely. I was actually supposed to be on a plane to the Virgin Islands right now. I'm feeling better, but unfortunately, I had to cancel that trip. So I'm making videos for you all instead. Anyway, off topic. That happens. Rabbit trail. Sorry, I'll try to stay on topic. This is Zoby's story. Even though he is staying here beside me. Will you come here and say hi again? Oh, he was running off and going back to sleep. Say hello. So even though some of you know this, a lot of you do not, and hopefully we will get some more followers who don't know this story, but Zoby was actually viciously attacked by a dog and almost died back in 2018. So this little guy actually should not be here today. He is quite literally a miracle. All of the doctors and nurses at Blue Pearl who saved his life told us that, you know, he's quite literally a miracle and that God has something special in store for this dog. And I promised him when he was fighting for his life that if he survived it, I would do everything within my power to give him the best dog life ever. Ever! So, I'm doing everything I can in my power to make that promise come true. So, without further ado, this is Zoby's story. Zoby entered my life on December 28th, 2011. I got him from a Maltese rescue organization here in Tampa Bay, and it was love at first sight for both of us. He instantly became my best friend. Zoby is named after Ben Zobrist, my favorite baseball player, formerly of the Rays and the Cubs. Zoby loves everything outdoors. He immediately took to kayaking and beaches and walking and bike riding and just anything that was outside. So when I moved to Tennessee after my divorce, of course, I took him hiking, and he loved it. It was so great for me as I was healing in the mountains to be able to share that with my best friend, and he loved it as well. No matter what I was going through, he was always by my side. And then in 2017, we moved back to Florida and once again enjoyed kayaking and the beaches and sunshine, and life was good. Until May 30th, 2018. That morning, he was attacked by a dog in my neighborhood and almost didn't survive. So that morning, for whatever reason, this little guy right here did something he has never done before that morning and thankfully has never done since. He's such a good boy, but that morning when I opened the condo door to take him out to go potty, I realized I had left his leash in the car the night before because I had carried him up to the condo. And in the moment that I hesitated with the door open, he ran out. And not only did he run out, he also actually ran down the stairs. I guess he really needed to go potty because he always waits for me. Even if he is off leash, which is not all that often, he stays beside me and doesn't run off. But that morning he ran out the door and ran down the stairs, and of course at the base of the stairs was a dog who in the neighborhood was unfortunately notorious for not liking small dogs. And Zoby, being the friendly dog that he is, goes over to him to say hello, and instead of a happy greeting from the other dog, he was picked up like a little rabbit and shook viciously and tossed aside on the ground into a ripped open bloody heap. I didn't actually see the attack. I heard it. I was running down the stairs after him. Some other neighbors saw it and told me about it. All I needed to see was the aftermath, which was him lying in a huge pile of blood, quite literally with his insides on the outside. I thought he was gone before I even got to him in that moment. The term that the vet used in the paperwork was eviscerated, and he was. I have a picture, and I'm gonna put it on the screen here. I'm going to black out the worst of it, but I'm warning you ahead of time before I do this. If you want to look away in 3, 2, 1. Okay, putting it on the screen. Blacked out, but yeah, that's how bad it was. So I go over to pick up what I think is my now dead dog crying hysterically, and realize he's still alive. He actually was like screaming, whimpering in this horrible, unbelievable, high-pitched wail, and sorry for the TMI, but was like trying to like pick at himself, and it was awful. We're not gonna get any more details. So I carried him, blood all over. I'm wearing a white robe, and I gotta sit you down, buddy, you're breaking my arm. I carried him back up the stairs to my condo, freaking out, like, your mind just goes blank, and I'm in shock, and I'm like, what do I need to do? I need to get my keys, I need to get my purse, my dog, like, is he where do I even go? It was early, it was just after sunrise, it was raining, I didn't even know where to go. Yeah, all this is going through my mind. Somehow I managed to get my phone and my purse, and still holding on to him, and went back downstairs, got in my car, and I first drove to my vet, which was just down the street, but of course they were closed. So then I'm trying to handle my phone, and you gotta like, he's a small dog, but there was blood everywhere, and my hands were covered in blood, and they were so slick that I couldn't get my phone to unlock. I obviously couldn't use my fingerprint. I couldn't touch the keypad. Like, it was horrible, and I was so frustrated, and he's like lying in my lap dying, and I don't know where to take him. So I just started driving, and then finally somehow managed to get my phone to come up, and found I don't know, I searched like emergency animal hospital, I think, and Blue Pearl came up. And so I drove, but it was about a 30-minute drive, and did he have 30 minutes left in him? But he was alive, he was still breathing, and not gonna lie, I broke every traffic law that there is that morning. So whenever I see someone driving like a freaking maniac, I take a deep breath and think to myself, they are just saving their dog's life. And I look at Zoby and say, that's what they're doing. And I know that's probably not what they're doing, but it works for me. So anyway, I get to Blue Pearl, and unbelievably he is still alive. But barely. I can tell like he's going, and I jump out of the car, and all I'm wearing is my robe still, and my white robe is saturated. I'm dripping blood down my legs, down my arms, and I'm holding this limp little guy with his insides on the outside, and I run up to the front door, and there was a worker at the front door like sweeping, I think, and he sees me coming. He tells me the story later. He sees me coming covered in blood, and of course I'm crying hysterically, and I'm screaming, and I don't even remember this, but I was screaming, save my baby, save my baby. I thought it was a real hospital, and that I like had a miscarriage and was carrying my baby to them. And so that's why he initially started trying to tell me like where to go to a real hospital, and I was like not understanding why he was telling me that, and I'm like, can't you take care of him? Like, he's dying, like, you're an animal hospital. And he finally like looked in my arms where he thought I was like carrying, he told me this later, and like it was not funny at the time, but now it is, but like he thought I was carrying like a fetus from a miscarriage because I was so covered in blood, and blood was dripping down my legs. And then he realized, I remember him going, oh my god, that's a dog. I was like, yes, save him. I'm like crying. He takes him from me, and like starts, going inside and like screaming, like getting everyone's attention to come out here and, try to take care of this, dog that he realizes is a dog and is actually still alive, unbelievably. So after all of the craziness of people coming out, and thank God there was no one in the lobby that early, because I'm sure it would have absolutely freaked anyone out who saw him, who would have seen him as bad as he was, and me covered in blood. Even the poor receptionist told me she was kind of traumatized by seeing me come in covered in his blood like that. They take him back, and the wonderful, sweet receptionist comes over, and she like brings me a glass of water, and she brought me clothes to change into and everything. She's like trying to help me calm down, and I'm feeling better because they've taken him, and like they're gonna fix him, they're gonna make him all better. And I'm saying something along those lines, and I remember her just looking at me, and I'm like, well, they're gonna be able to fix him, right? They're gonna be able to save his life. And she's just looking at me, and I'm just like, they're not gonna be able to save him, or I'm like bawling. I'm like, he lost too much blood. It's too severe of an injury. I'm like, I killed my baby. I don't know why I'm screaming I killed my baby, but I remember I was screaming I killed my baby. This is kind of, I don't know why I'm laughing, because it was not funny. And honestly, like, I have a little bit of PTSD from this morning, and when I really sit down and think about this or relive it in my head, like, I actually like bawl my eyes out, which I was doing earlier today, knowing I was gonna make this video. Okay, I keep trying to make you cute and in the video, and all you want to do is he's so cute. All he wants to do is crawl in my lap. Okay, sit in my lap. So back to the story. So unbelievably, Blue Pearl was actually able to get him stabilized. They gave him a blood transfusion, and he was stable but critical, and they came out to talk to me. And it was, this is where I'm probably gonna start crying if I start crying. It was such a horrible, horrible moments, not just one moment, but several moments laying on top of each other here, where the doctor came out to talk to me about his condition, and it took me a little while for her to realize that she was basically trying to tell me that even though they'd stabilized him, they couldn't tell how extensive his injuries were, and they wouldn't be able to tell unless they had surgery. And in surgery, there's all kinds of risks. He might not make it through. They could further damage things. They don't know, like, was his spinal cord damaged? Was his urinary tract damaged? Like, even if he makes it through, what I very clearly remember her saying was, you know, even if he does survive surgery, he's probably never going to be the Zoby that you know and love, and his quality of life will probably be extremely poor. And at some point, it finally began sinking in that she was not telling me, hey, we can have surgery and save his life. She was trying to tell me, you know, we can have the surgery, but the better option is probably to put him down. And in the beginning, all I was hearing was, you know, we've stabilized him, he's still alive, and we can have surgery. Because I'm like, okay, let's do that. Like, why are we even talking, you know? I'm like, you know, that movie where they're like, so you're telling me there's a chance? Like, like, okay, like, let's save his life then. And by this point, my mom had gotten there. He finally just jumped off my lap, sorry. By this point, my mom had gotten there, and she was also, I think, trying to get through to me what the doctor was trying to get through to me. And then when that finally hit me, and I actually even said to them something along the lines of, like, you're trying to tell me that my option here is put him down or, like, live with a crippled dog, probably. And, you know, that he's not gonna survive this surgery, or if he does, he's gonna be, you know, what am I trying to say? Not the same. Sorry. So I get very emotional with this. So they were telling me that, and I just could not accept putting him down. I couldn't. Every time I started thinking about trying to do that, I was just, I knew it wasn't just me being emotional. It was like I was feeling like this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This isn't the right answer. And so I finally went back to the doctor. She came back. She told me to think about it. She came back, and when she came back, I told her, I'm like, look, in order for me to actually make a better decision, like, I need to know what we're talking about with expenses here, because I know that this is probably going to be a couple $1,000s, right? This moment, see, this moment was the one that still breaks me down every time, and breaks my heart when I hear other people in this situation too. I had a decent real estate career at the time. I done real estate in Atlanta for 2 years, and I had moved back to Florida less than a year prior and was starting all over. And when you're starting all over in something like real estate, it takes a little while for it to get going again. And I was doing okay. I had just reached the point where I was having enough steady closings that I was able to start putting some money back in savings, and I was still working on paying off some debt after my divorce and things like that. So I had some money in savings, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I've got a little bit left under my credit card. I just paid it down, but we'll max it out again, and I'll, wipe out my bank account, but I've got some closings coming up. So, I'm like trying to like figure out, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to risk, what it takes to save his life. And she just looks at me, the doctor, she just looks at me after I say it's gonna cost a couple $1,000s, right? And she puts her hand on my shoulder and kind of like pulls me in a little bit closer, and her eyes, she just looks at me and she's like, sweetie, we're talking that this is gonna begin probably around $10,000 and up. And that just broke me. I just absolutely lost it. Actually, I remember collapsing onto the floor in the foyer and sobbing hysterically. Because I didn't have $10,000. I didn't have that under my credit card. I didn't have that, in cash. And the worst thing was I didn't have the luxury of time to try to gather that, to reach out to friends or family to ask for a loan, to call my credit card and ask if my limit could be raised, or ask for a cash advance, or try to qualify for care credit through the hospital there. I had to make a decision. Like, they gave me an hour from the moment that she came out and told me that it was stabilized to I either had to put him down or wheel him back for surgery. And that hour flew by. And at this point I had like 20 minutes when I'm being told how much it's actually going to be. And I'm like, I don't have a choice. My choice was just removed from me. I can't pay for the surgery. And so anytime I hear anyone in a situation like that now, it just breaks my heart. I would love to figure out a way to like help people with something like that, because to be told that your baby, no, he's not my human baby, and I'm not a mom, but the point is I'm not a mom, and he is my like whole world. He's everything to me. And I didn't even have really the option to save his life because I didn't have the money at the time. So, I'm crying and, accepting reality of, this is probably just the best thing. I don't feel it in my gut. This feels so wrong. But I don't have another option. My choice has been removed. So we were told that we could go back. Me and my mom were told that we could go back to where they had him stabilized and say our goodbyes. And they were gonna, get things ready to put him down. And so we go back into this back room, and like everybody who was there that day, all the doctors, nurses, workers, everyone had just like, this had taken over the entire place. Like everyone knew who he was and what was going on. And I think that there were some people who were hoping that maybe he'd be able to pull through and they'd have a miracle that he would live. Because everyone thought he was dead when I brought him in, and that they didn't think they were gonna be able to get him stabilized even. And then they did. But I couldn't do the surgery. So I went back to say goodbye, and as soon as I walked in, and I wasn't even to Zoby yet, and I hadn't said anything, they had told me that the reason we had an hour was because his vitals were fading. And before I went in, she told me, don't expect him to like open his eyes and look at me or try to lick me, or basically he was probably just gonna be lying there. And I walked in, and he opened his eyes and propped his head up and actually started to try to like get himself up. And like every doctor and nurse in the room literally like gasped. There was like this collective gasp in the air, and he looks at me and like he's crying. Like everybody said, like you could just see the look in his eyes was he looked at me and he was just like, Mommy, don't do this. Don't do this. Everybody knew the message he was. I didn't even have, like, if you're not a dog lover or you're not an animal lover, you probably think I'm crazy right now, but like everybody who is, that you have a communication with your animal. And he 100% lifted his head and started looking at me, And I got over to him, he started licking his hand. I mean, he'd been almost dead. And he started doing all of this, and the look in his eyes, and everybody saw it, and everybody agreed and said it, was that he was just saying, don't do this. Let me fight, Mommy, give me a chance to fight. And I started crying, and I just couldn't do it. And I told everyone, I'm like, I can't do it, I can't say goodbye, I can't put him down. I'm like, I gotta figure something out, I gotta figure out a way, we gotta have this surgery. And my mom is crying, and she goes over and she puts her hand on Zoby's head, and she turns around and looks at me and then looks at all the doctors and the nurses, and she goes, just put it on my credit card. She's like, I gotta call, make sure I have it under the limit or raise it. She's like, put it on my credit card. And she looks at me and she's like, we'll figure it out. She's like, we'll figure it out. And I am so forever incredibly grateful to her for that, because Zoby wouldn't be here today. Otherwise, I don't know how I would have been able to figure it out. So, they then begin prepping him for surgery, take him back, and a 5-hour surgery ensues, and he makes it through surgery, and then there's a 24-hour window that they told me that he had about a 50-50 chance of making it, but first through surgery and then another 50-50 chance of making it through that first 24 hours. It was a nightmare for me that first night. I didn't sleep and I called the hospital 3 times, but obviously he made it through both the surgery and that first 24 hours. When they came out from surgery, the doctor, he was just like, or the surgeon rather, he just was like, he shouldn't be alive. Like, I don't know how he survived the trauma of it happening, how he survived the blood loss, how he survived surgery, and that it is literally a miracle that the way the incision just moved around inside him, like when he was actually ripped open, like it missed every vital organ, it missed his spinal cord, it missed his urinary tract. He had enough damage to his intestines that they were able to remove what needed to be removed, but it wasn't so much that it was ever going to be like, it was right on the bubble of like how much was too much to even attempt, but it wasn't too much, so they were able, like, and it is a miracle. And he was like, I actually think if he makes it through, you know, tonight and the next couple of days without any further complications, and we don't have to have a second surgery. He flat out told me he didn't think he would survive another surgery. He's like, you really might honestly have a dog who came through one of the most vicious attacks that we've ever seen here and is going to be perfectly fine. And that's just, you know, what I had been praying for from the moment Mom slapped her credit card down on that table and said that let's do the surgery, that he would survive the surgery, survive the night, and no complications, and that he would actually be Zoby again. And that's exactly what happened. It was a very difficult process afterwards. I have a bunch of pictures from everything, and I promised him that I was going to give him his best life. And so I've been doing everything that I can to make that a reality. Zoby celebrated his 7th birthday by coming home. It wasn't all roses, though. I had a lot of late nights, and he developed this fluid-filled sac around his incision, which, with doctor's orders for treatment, thankfully healed on its own and didn't require surgery. I had amazing friends who put together all kinds of fundraisers for me, including a photo shoot for pets, which was a huge hit. Got this photo, and it was just a wonderful time with them. And Zoby remained Zoby. No side effects whatsoever. So I set about giving him his best life. Whether we were biking or hiking or kayaking or sailing, we just enjoyed life together. Zoby has taught me so much about fighting, about being there, about love, about being a champion. He's climbed 14ers, he's gone on bike rides, he's hiked for miles, and he's seen the country. And now we're about to go on the biggest adventure together. I can't wait to hit the Appalachian Trail with my best friend. I hope that you will watch and you'll enjoy and you'll cheer him on as much as I am. Thanks, buddy, for everything.